And maybe while you're waiting, let me just put out this poll for you guys. So basically, for me to understand why are you here. So are you here for learning how to tune an ECU? Are you here to figuring out how to start a career in this, or you want your business and things like that? So if you want to learn how to tune an ECU, then I think we have 12 votes. So guys, please do understand ECU tuning is a pretty huge field, and there's no way I can kind of do it in about an hour's time. So what I would be doing is I'll be giving you the way to learn to tune, right? So I'll give you that roadmap, but I will not be able to completely teach you how to tune. So the 19 people who have voted for learning how to tune ECUs, you guys would have to keep this in mind. Um, for the others who want to do your own business, you want to start a career in ECU tuning, yes, we would be covering that as well, right? Great. So let this go on. 2 more minutes. Let the others join in. For those of you who have joined in new, I think you guys have a poll running, a goal setting poll kind of. You could just answer it. Just an idea for us to get an idea about what exactly it is that you guys are wanting from this whole thing. Okay, Akshay, you want to know, understand the terms used for tuning. Let me see how much I can do in that. Okay, let me try to do that. 1 hour is too short a time for it. This is usually 8 to 10 hours to kind of introduce ECU tuning, basically. So let me see what I can do, but maybe we can also handle it in the Q&A sessions. So Akshay, if you have any specific things you want to ask me, please do put them in the Q&A session as well. I'll try to handle it over there. How to enter into motorsports with ECU tuning? Yes. uh, how to start a career and opportunity we have in tuning. Hakash, yes, we would be doing that. Vivek, yes, I would be covering that. So these questions, guys, you could typically post it in the questions tab, so I can go there and I can answer it. Right, it'll be easier for me to do it. And also, please don't send me chat messages privately, because for me to do that, I'll have to go in and check against each one of your profile, which would probably be like impossible for me to do once I start the session. So the best way to post questions is in the questions tab. Um, right, you could just post it there and leave it for me to answer it. Right. So it's 5 o'clock. Let's start off with the things. Um, right. I'm Sajid. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Sajid. I'm the founder and CEO of Sirius Motorsports and Rain Lab. And I would like to call myself as a cross domain automotive professional. So basically, what this means is I'm someone who has got quite a lot of grassroots levels experience, which means I can probably like go work as an automotive mechanic. I have that kind of a knowledge at the grassroots levels. I know how every single component in the car works. I also have knowledge on the other side, as in I know how they are designed. So design in the sense it's about 3D design, production, and all those process. And I also have a pretty good experience, a solid experience on the R&D side of things as well. So that's what the experience that I have. And so right now I juggle my time between two different careers. So on one side, I'm an entrepreneur. I teach skill development courses on ECU tuning, electric vehicle powertrain development, control systems, and other things. And on the other side, I teach at BITS Pilani. I'm an adjunct faculty at BITS Pilani, where I handle MTech courses on automotive engineering and automotive electronics. So it's kind of like a perfect fit for me, because my job at BITS Pilani involves me talking to all the automotive professionals from across India. So you name it, I've interacted with those companies. I've worked with ECU manufacturers, vehicle manufacturers, control systems, ADAS, autonomous, you name it. I've worked with those companies through my stint at BITS Pilani. So this is basically what I'm bringing to the table for you guys. I'm bringing my experience of the last 16 years. I'm bringing it to the table, and you can see that I was also working with a project for UCAL Fuel Systems, where we are working on a project where we're converting carburetor to fuel injection systems. So which means I'm fortunate enough to have worked on projects which kind of give me a 360-degree overview of what an automotive R&D is going to be like. So that's about my side, right? And let me quickly get on with this and not keep you waiting. Let me quickly get on with it and start off the session. So we have quite a lot of questions. So the questions I'll just leave this here, and probably like we'll start attending it once we are there in the sorry. So I'll probably like take the questions once we get towards the end of the session. Anytime you guys are not able to hear me or something like that, try refreshing your screen. If it is still not working, then probably type it out in the chat box. Just let me know that it's not working. I'll stop, I'll check, and I'll get back on it. Okay. So now, what is it that we are going to be talking about today? The agenda for today is very simple. There's just 3 points I'm going to touch upon. That's all the time that we would have. So it's supposed to be a 1 hour session, but I think we will overshoot it by about 15 to 20 minutes, but that's okay. So I'm going to talk about, first thing is, what is ECU tuning, because there is so much of confusion about what exactly ECU tuning is, and why is it that you need a qualified person to teach you ECU tuning, right? So that's what we're going to talk about first. Then I'm going to talk about, briefly touch upon the various career tracks. So the career tracks are basically, you learn ECU tuning, where is it you're going to work, because end of the day, that's something which you guys are wanting to do as well. And finally, the right way to learn ECU tuning and remaps. So I will not exactly in this session teach you, okay, this is how you do a remap. I cannot unfortunately teach you because of time constraints, but I'll give you every single information possible which can kind of like help you go there and learn it, right? So you don't have to essentially wait for it. You can go do it on your own. You can learn it on your own. So guys who have kind of come in later on, there is a poll running, which is basically for me to understand what exactly is your requirements from the session. So I've just put it out there. About 90 of you have answered it. We have about 160 people here in the session. So if you guys can quickly go and fill it up, it would be good enough for me to get an idea about what exactly it is that you're looking at, right? So a brief look at chat box. Okay, any questions? Can you please post it in the questions tab? I think Praveen Vagela, please post in it. And Hakash, can you share the link to join? I'm just posting it in the chat box again. So this should be the link for you to join. But you'll have to register and join. I'm not sure how that works, right? Great. So starting on with it. So before we start off, just for you to understand that I'm here with all this experience, just some pictures to give you an idea about what we have done and where we have reached. So today I'm at a position where I said I teach at BITS Pilani. I also run my own performance engineering consultancy. I have my startup where we teach, where we do skill development courses. So this basically didn't come easy for us. So the journey basically started about 12 years back, where we started working with cars, where we started working with ECUs. We were tinkering around with ECUs. Not many people knew how to tune it, how to work on it. So it was one thing led to the other, and finally somewhere around 2010 is when we got into professional motorsports. So it took us almost about some 5-6 years of working towards getting there. And once we got into motorsports, we again spent the next 3-4 years trying to make a name for ourselves. And finally around 2013-14 is when we started getting into mainstream motorsports. So one of the most prominent clients we've had was Arjun Rav Arur AR Racing. So we were tuning his Polo 1.6. And this was the first time the polos were running in the competition, and I think I have the timesheet as well. We were able to do quite a lot of development work on it, so much so that these cars were basically competing with not just the 1600 cc's. They were faster than the 2000 cc CDRs, and they were actually competing with the XUV 500s. And you'll have to understand, XUV 500s were a factory back team, right? So we were able to like compete with that. So these are pictures that you see from there, and Arjun Rav, of course, went on to win the championship that year and the next year as well. And then he moved into the R2 category. So basically, when I say that I have quite a lot of experience with ECU tuning, it's just that I've been in the field for the last 12 years, and over the 12 years I worked with OEMs, I worked with most of the two-wheeler manufacturers. I worked on the ECU calibration for that side. I worked on the motorsports, I worked on aftermarket, and that's basically what we bring to the table when we say this, right? And a couple of our students, after we've started this tuning course and other things, a couple of our, not a couple, quite a lot of our students, they have kind of been able to move into both the OEM side of things. So there are people who are working with Tata Motors, they're working with Mahindra, where they're working as engine calibration engineers. They're doing testing and validation, while an equal number of people are working in the motorsport segment as well. So they've gone on to run their own business. They are working as a tuner. So it's basically like the sky is the limit, because this is still a field where there are not many people who can kind of like master this field. There's not many opportunities for them to learn and master. So you have a lot of opportunities, and what you make out of it is basically how you want to kind of like develop things from here, right? And let me start off with ECU tuning and remaps. And the first thing what I would like to say, pretty much any of my students, any of the learners who come to us, is that ECU tuning is not something which is pretty simple, right? So if you want me to call ECU tuning by its proper name, I would have to say it is called as calibration of engine control unit, right? So now imagine if I had a course where I said, we are teaching calibration of engine control units. People are basically going to run away, because the moment I start talking about calibration and I start talking about control units, then people think that this is something possible only for people who can kind of have some kind of engineering background. They need to be automotive engineers. They need to be they need to be very highly qualified and things like that, right? So on one side, it is true that you need to have quite a lot of knowledge about cars, quite a knowledge about electronics and things like that. You do need it, right? It is not simple. I'm not saying ECU tuning is simple, but what you can do is you can try to kind of learn this in a really simple way, right? So just dropping a poll for you, just to have some kind of an interaction going. So there's a poll on there. You could probably just just for fun, just keep answering, just for me to see like what's going on over there. So quite a lot of people, they do think that you need to have an engineering degree for this, right? So I wouldn't say it's engineering, but what you do need to understand is what exactly is a control system. So when you call it as an ECU, it is an engine control unit. So engines, but do you know what a control does? So you need to understand that. And you also need to understand the engine really in depth, right? So we call it as the calibration principle. So you need to understand that. And you also need to understand what exactly the driver is doing. It's something like psychology of the driver, because I mean, just look at it this way. So you see a person sitting here and doing something on the computer, tuning the ECU, right? So now what this person is trying to do is he's trying to link the bike to the rider. And how is he doing it? By just tuning it. So which basically needs, you need to understand the engine behavior and the driver behavior as well. So this is basically what you need to understand before we get into tuning and remaps, right? But you don't have to worry that this is something which is you don't have to worry, or you don't have to think that this is something which is extremely complex. And to answer the poll query, no, you don't need an engineering degree for it. We have in fact taught the course to a 10th standard student. So of course the 10th standard student didn't become a tuner per se, but he could understand what was happening, and he basically didn't have a complaint. He said that yes, he's comfortable enough to tune his own car. So that's basically why he came here, because he wanted to learn how to tune his own car. So he was able to do the course, right? So don't think that you need an engineering degree for it. We've had students who have completed 10th standard. We've had mechanics with absolutely no knowledge join us with it. We have engineers. We've had engineers from the computer science department. It's basically open for all, right? It's there is no prerequisites. You can learn it as long as you have an interest for it. So now the next thing I want to talk about is when we talk about, I mean, if you remember, this whole webinar was about ECU tuning / remaps. So what is the distinction between tuning and remap? This is something which a lot of people do keep asking. So it's something like this. So when we call as an ECU tuning, when I say we and when I say I, it just refers to Rainlive and it just refers to me. So I primarily refer to ECU tuning as the process. Vishnuvardhan, yes, I am sharing a screen. Are you not able to see that? There is no password to access. Just check on the session materials. You would be able to see the PPTs there, right? Raj, if you're there, if you could just text him privately or something, right? So what I mean by ECU tuning is that this is something which is reserved for standalone ECUs. So standalone ECUs are primarily those that are used for motorsport applications. So you would have heard about ECU Masters, you would have heard about AEM, Motec, Haltech, quite a lot of brands out there. And these are pretty simple engine control units to speak of. So they are used for primarily for motorsport or aftermarket applications. So aftermarket is basically you have a car, you want to turbocharge it, you basically go put a standalone ECU on it, right? And these are primarily used for petrol engines, and these are usually not used for diesel or direct injection petrols. So which means you have a diesel car, you can't hope to put a standalone ECU on it. You have a direct injection petrol like maybe the Skoda Laura 1.8 or the Polo 1.2 TSIs. No, you can't do it on that. There are ECUs which can handle it, but these are not something which are readily available. So okay, great. So that's happening. I mean, this is checking the chat box. So yeah. So basically, these are issues which can work for a naturally aspirated multi-point fuel injection petrol, right, or a turbocharged multi-point fuel injection petrol. It works for these cars. These are usually the mass market appeal. You do have issues which work for direct injection petrols, but those are going to cost a bomb. So when I say cost a bomb, yes, it's going to be really expensive kind of. So another poll for you guys, and this is basically about what do you think about standalone ECUs? How much do you think the standalone ECUs are going to cost? Just for me to make sure that you guys are engaged. And now one thing about standalone ECUs is that you can tune it from scratch, as in an empty ECU. You can put data into it. You can kind of tune it from scratch. You can basically map it. That is basically how we do a standalone ECU. While on the other hand, the process called as remaps, it refers to tuning OEM ECUs, right? So OEM ECUs, you would probably have it from manufacturers like Bosch or Continental or Magneti Marelli and these kind of companies. So these are purpose built ECUs to satisfy OEM requirements. So which means it's going to be a lot more complicated, right? It's going to be extremely complicated. And tuning an OEM ECU is not a single person job, right? So if someone gives you a blank ECU, we do get blank ECUs. We do get blank ECUs. If one of you is interested in that, I can also like help you out procure an OEM blank ECU. But it's like I said, it's going to be like really expensive. So you do get a blank ECU. It is not possible for a single person to completely tune this ECU. Standalone ECU, a single person can tune. He can tune it over a period of 2 days, 3 days at the max. If you have some really good experience, you can probably tune it in about 4 to 5 hours. But an OEM ECU, to completely set it up, to completely tune it from scratch, you would need a team of maybe 20-30 people working for maybe about 6 months to even get to a level where the vehicle is kind of okay, right? So any vehicle that you see on the road, all those ECUs, nothing less than 1 to 2 years of experience, 2 years of work has gone into setting these ECUs up. So which means it is impossible for you to tune these things from scratch. So all you can do on these ECUs is, you cannot map it, right? You cannot map it, but whatever maps are there, maps are basically tuning tables. So whatever maps are there, you can just hope to alter it. So this altering, we basically refer to it as remap, right? So there is a map that's already there, you just make some changes, you write it back onto it, and that's all you can hope to do. So the reason why it's happening this way is basically because these ECUs are extremely complicated, and because they are extremely complicated, it's not going to be possible for you to tune these ECUs from scratch, right? So first thing for you, it's basically, what is a standalone ECU, what is a aftermarket ECU, what is tuning, what is remap. This is basically how it is different. So guys who have kind of joined in late, can you just post your questions onto the question tab? Because if you post it in the chat box, I might not be able to answer you at the end of the session. So Ram Prasad, Manas, Sabrinathan, Nishant, just post it in the questions tab so I can quickly have a look at it and go back to it, right? Because more people start posting it in the chat box, it kind of goes up. I'll kind of miss answering your questions. So it's always easier if you can put it in the the questions tab, right? Great. So moving on. So what do you need to kind of get started with tuning, right? So I'll not exactly say remap at this point of a time. I'll just refer to it as tuning. So what you need to start off with tuning, which is basically the bare minimum requirements, are these. So you would need to use a wideband oxygen sensor. A wideband oxygen sensor is something which tells you how rich or how lean your vehicle is running. So in earlier days, when I say earlier days, sometime in around 2000s, 2002s, and all those time, when we used to be racing carburetor esteems, the only way we could check if the vehicle was running properly is basically to take it on the track, drive it, and see. Or another thing we would do is, after driving it for some time, we would stop it, remove the spark plug, check if the spark plug was black. If it was black, then we knew, like, okay, it is running rich. If it was not black, it was brown, we knew it was running lean. So we didn't exactly have access to a lot of tools, but right now you can get a wideband oxygen sensor. I mean, it's readily available. So something about 15-20,000 rupees, you get a wideband oxygen sensor, which can basically tell you if you are going in the right way or the wrong way as far as fueling is concerned. Similarly, for telling you if your spark advances are right, you need to have something called as a knock monitor. So a knock monitor basically tells you when your engine is knocking, when you're overdoing it. It basically tells you that. So when you're overdoing it, you stop it, and you basically don't take it on those lines, right? So these are the basic tools that you would need. And of course, for any proper tuning, you need to have access to a dyno facility. And I cannot stress on the importance of it, but a dyno is sometimes kind of it's disposable. As in, if you're just tuning it for your own sake, if you're not doing it for competitive sake, if you're just learning and things like that, it is possible for you to tune without using a dyno. But that is not the right way to do it, but it is kind of possible for you to tune without a dyno as well. And finally, we do have the most important thing, which is the laptop, which you need to interface to the ECU to kind of start doing any kind of a tuning over there. So the basic tools that is needed. So now with the basic tools, how do you start interfacing to the ECU? So I said, I mean, in the last slide, I said you need a laptop to start interfacing to the ECU. So how do you start interfacing? So now ECU interface is where, again, a standalone ECU tuning is way different from your remaps. So quite a lot of people come to me and ask, can I remap my own car? Can I remap my own bike? So the simple answer is yes, you can. I mean, they want to remap primarily because a standalone ECU is costing 15 or 20,000 rupees. So what you need to understand here is that an ECU which comes in your car or bike, it is what we call as a production ECU. So a production ECU is something where the manufacturer has closed all the input output access to the system. So these production ECUs, they don't have any read or write options on it, so you cannot directly interface with these ECUs. Only way you can read a production ECU, an OEM ECU, is by actually hacking into it. So you need to figure out what is a backdoor entry into it. You hack into the ECU and then you extract the files from it. So the process is something like this. So you need to use a specialized tool. This is made by manufacturers like Alien Tech or CMD or Autotuner. There are quite a lot of tool manufacturers. So they do quite a lot of research into it, and they tell you, okay, if this is this particular car, this is how you can read into the ECU. So you'll have to probably pay about some 1.5 2 lakhs to purchase those tools from them, and then with their tool, with their software, they will tell you how you can hack into any particular vehicle's ECU. So you hack into it and you start the remapping process. Whereas on the other hand, if you were to consider a standalone ECU, right, a standalone ECU would be very, very, very simple. You would have a standardized connection, usually something like an USB A or a USB C, or sometimes even a serial port. Some ECUs do have proprietary, but that's very pretty much rare in between. You have an easy to plug-in cable. You just plug in directly into the ECU. The other end goes into your computer. You start working on it. And most of the software that is needed to communicate with the standalone ECUs, you go to their website, you can download these softwares for free. So you go to Haltech, you go to Motec, you download their software, you can understand how the software works. And of course, you need an ECU to kind of start tuning, but basically the software is free. You can just download and check. But please do understand, remaps, that is not the case. You cannot directly go and you cannot plug in and start working on it. So now, since anyways the tuning process on the standalones, since the interface is very simple, all you'll have to do with the standalone ECU is you just connect the cables on both ends, open the software, and there should obviously be a button which says connect to the ECU. So click on that connect. It will start communicating. Your laptop will start communicating with the standalone ECU. There will be a button which says read. Press read. All the values come into your system. Do whatever changes that you want, and finally there's a button which says write. Press write. Everything goes back into the ECU. It is straightforward, absolutely no headaches. It is just as easy and as simple as that. So a lot of ECUs, you don't even have to use a laptop for it. You can also use a mobile phone. You can use a handheld device. There's a lot of new interfaces which have come up as far as standalone ECUs goes. But when it comes to OEM ECUs, it's going to be quite a lot complex. So some of you had asked in the chat box as well, how do you remap a vehicle? So this is basically what the process is. So there are a lot of steps involved in it. So the first step is for you to gain access to the ECU. How do you gain access? You cannot simply take your computer and connect to it. You need to have an interfacing tool like Alien Tech, KES, KTAG, CMD, or something like that. So your computer is connected to the tool. That is the first step. Second step, this tool starts communicating with the ECU. So it can communicate to the ECU in some cases through the OBD port. You don't have to remove the ECU from the car, just plug it into the OBD port. It starts reading and writing. That usually happens with the older day cars, but most modern cars, that access is not provided. Right, so that's a backdoor, and the ECU manufacturers have understood the backdoor is open, so they have kind of closed it. So if you want to read or write into these ECUs, you'll have to take the ECU out from the engine bay. You'll have to put it on a disk and you'll have to connect it. So that's basically what the previous image was showing. You take wires, you put it into the ECU, you probe pins, you do something. um, don't ask how do I know it. It's basically the tool will tell you how to do it. So if you ask me, do you remember for every single car? No, I don't remember. I've spent money, I've got these tools. So the tools have got a help file. So for any particular car that I want, I just go access the help file, and that's basically gonna help me like access it. So Raj, I think there are people who are complaining about not able to join in. I think that's basically because we are full, right? So 200 people already. So Raj, if you're there, if you could just like send out a message to the other registrations saying that they can't join because it's full, would be great. Okay. So yeah, questions, please put it on the questions tab. I'll answer it over there. So the second step is basically for the tool to start communicating with the ECU. So once the tool has started communicating to the ECU, then the tool will extract what is called as a hex file. So a hex file is a hexadecimal file. So it's basically a whole lot of meaningless jumble of numbers. That is what you will be able to read from the ECU, right? Whereas with a standalone ECU, you have a software which basically presents a human readable format, data in a human readable format. With the OEM ECUs, that doesn't happen, right? You will get a jumble of text. It will be like some hexadecimal values, and that is all that you would be able to extract from the ECU. Now, the next step for you is to get a software which will interpret these files. So these softwares, you have softwares like WinOLS, you have Alien Tech has Tuner Studio. I mean, not Tuner Studio. I think something they have some softwares like that. So basically, these softwares, what they do is they take the hexadecimal file and they convert it into a format that a human can understand. So what is a human understandable format? It's basically tables, right? We can understand tables, we can understand decimal values, we can understand something which is written in English, right? So that's basically how it will convert. Once it converts, it is giving it to you in a format that you can understand. Then you go and tune it, right? So I'm still not talking about what the tuning process is, but I'm saying just tune it. And once you have tuned it, it does not end there, because this human readable format has to be converted into hexadecimal. And when it is converted into hexadecimal, the ECUs are smart enough to understand if the file has been changed, right? As in, they are smart enough to understand if they have been hacked. It's part of the security measures. So you basically have to run a compatibility check step, which is called as a checksum. So which means you cannot take a hexadecimal file from any ECU, do whatever changes you want. You cannot do that and hope to write it back into the ECU and start working. No, it will not happen. So there is only so much that you can do with the OEM ECUs. So within limits, you can make some changes, and then once you have made the changes, you'll have to run a checksum process. It's basically you trying to like fool the security of your Okay, so you basically have the security protocols inside the ECUs, which basically prevents you from making changes. So you kind of like bypass all those things, and finally you take this hexadecimal file, you write it back into the ECU, it'll start working, right? So I don't know if you really understood this or not, but you would have access to the recording, so probably go back, watch it a couple of times, you would understand. So basically with a standalone ECU, the process is simple. You directly connect, take the file, make changes, write it back. Whereas with the OEM ECUs, you have to go a roundabout route. So first you gain access, then get a hexadecimal file, then convert it into human readable format, make changes, convert it back into hex, check for compatibility, checksum, then write it back. So this is the process which the remap process takes, which is probably why if you see like remaps, they basically cost you some 20 or 30,000 rupees. The reason why it costs you so much is not because that we want to charge you much, we want to charge you like that, we want to make much money, but we spend lakhs and lakhs every year to kind of like get these tools updated, and things like that. And the person who's writing the file, he charges us a bomb. So that's basically why remaps end up costing you 20,000, 40,000, 50,000, and things like that. So hope you're okay with this, hope you understood how basically the remap process works. And for those of you still wondering about why is it that tuning is going to be expensive, again, another small tool for you to check, or rather understand like how much exactly these tools are going to cost you. So now, before we move into it, you guys can just answer the poll. Just a fun thing for you to kind of like understand how much it's going to cost you. So to give you an idea, if you're looking at standalone ECUs, you would probably spend about 50,000 rupees. If you're doing remaps, if you're just starting off, tool cost would be about 2 to 2.5 lakhs. And if you're like us, if you want to like have tools for pretty much all the vehicles out there, it's going to cost you somewhere about 7 to 8 lakh rupees to purchase all the remap tools. Now, before we move into how exactly you can learn to tune, one small slide about how exactly you can build a career for yourself. So now the careers I've divided into two different tracks. So one is on the aftermarket. So when I say aftermarket, it includes motorsports, performance garages, and things like that. And the other one is basically about getting into OEMs. So I think would be good enough to post the results of the poll here. So a lot of you have kind of like answered the polls here. You have been asking about what is it that you want to do with this, right? So you would be equally divided. Half of you would want to probably get into motorsports and things like that. Half of you would probably want to get into OEMs, and you want to join for you want to build a career in the OEM track or something. So these are basically the kind of careers that you could have. And the highlights basically is, even if you're just a mechanic, if you want to start working with electronic fuel injection systems, knowing what ECU is, knowing how ECU remaps work, it can help you become a much better technician, right? On the OEM track, you can directly get into calibration. So calibration is what we call as ECU tuning. You can directly get into calibration, or you can use this knowledge to get into ECU development, ECU testing, verification, validation, and quite a lot of careers on those lines as well. So this is basically the kind of tracks which are available to you guys. So what you want to get into, this depends on your individual preference. So you would probably be interested in one of these tracks, is what I hope. And now let's get into the actual ECU tuning process, right? So like I said earlier, I will not be able to handhold you and teach you this is how you tune ECUs, but what you can do is you can refer to it. If you can get answers to these questions what I put up here, this will basically help you understand how you're going to do your ECU tuning, right? So what do you need to learn ECU tuning? So I would say, to start off with, just start with ECU tuning. Don't get into remaps is more complex, but get into tuning is the level one kind of. So what you need to do is understand three different things. So first one is, what is the fuel theory, right? So how much fuel do you have to put into the engine, when you'll have to put into the engine, and how does it affect performance? That is something which you'll have to learn. So now, I mean, it's not that I don't want to teach you about air fuel ratios. It's just that we don't have time. So I'm giving you these hints. You just go to YouTube or Google, search for it. You would probably get an idea about how ECU tuning works, right? And that's the first thing you would do. You would have to learn about what is air fuel ratio, how does it affect performance. The next one is about spark. So what is spark advance? How does spark advance affect the performance? So go learn about that. That is the second thing you would do. And finally, you would have to balance between air fuel ratios and spark and multiple other parameters. So the performance parameters, if you're looking at OEM applications, it could be emissions, which is what OEMs are all about these days. So how do you manage emissions by working with your air fuel ratio and spark advance? That's something you'll have to learn. If it is for motorsports, how do you balance power and how do you balance torque? So you'll have to understand what is the difference between power and torque. When do you need power, when do you need torque, and how do you balance it out? So this is one track of information that you need to have. So this is basically what we can call as I don't know, thermodynamics, right? So engine theory and thermodynamics. Don't be taken away by the word thermodynamics. It's not as complicated. But if you are to refer to some books, you would probably find it in books on thermodynamics or engine theory. In fact, the book called Internal Combustion Engines by Heywood, Heywood. That is the standard textbook we use at BITS Pilani for teaching IC engines, which covers quite a lot of these things. So you could also refer to that book for insights into these things, right? You could do that. And the second track is basically about what is the driver behavior, right? So when the driver is pressing the throttle pedal, what goes on inside his head? Why is he pressing so much of throttle? Why does he need so much of torque? Or if he's pressing 50% throttle, how much of a torque does he need? What are the regular requirements? What are the special case requirements? Again, these are things which you could find on YouTube. Just go search for it. This would kind of help you start off with standalone ECU tuning, right? So two things. The first track is what exactly happens with the engine and what exactly happens with air and spark, air fuel ratio and spark. The second thing is, what is the driver wanting? Engine behavior, driver behavior. You link it, your standalone ECUs are good to go. right? But when it comes to OEM ECUs, right, what you need to do is you need to basically go and you need to reverse engineer the control strategy inside the ECU, because no one is going to tell you that. I mean, no one from Bosch or no one from Continental is going to come and say, hey, look, this is how I built my ECU, this is how you will have to calibrate it, so please go out and make changes. No one's going to teach you that, obviously, of course. No one's going to tell you that. So what you'll have to do is you'll have to go and you'll have to reverse engineer the control strategies on these ECUs. So how you do that is there are multiple options. So one is basically you go start searching for information on various forums. That's basically how we did. There is information, all the information is out there. You could just Google it up. You will have people who have posted information about it. There will be control strategy documents, not complete of course, but there would be partial strategies for older ECUs. You could start from the older ECUs and then probably maybe convert that learning into the newer ECUs as well. So you'll have to understand what are the variables, how they control the engine, and how they correlate among each other. So just to give you an idea about what you will see, so this image here, this basically is how the ECU control strategy would be built. So this is a model. So from this model, you will have to reverse engineer it and understand what the control strategy is. While this is very simple on standalone ECUs, with OEM ECUs, it could be a lot more complicated. So I think Yogesh, the book name is Haywood. Ananya, go back to the previous slide. Can you just post it on the questions tab? I'm not sure which slide you're referring to, but this slide is basically accessible for you as well. So you could also download it. I think it should be in the handout session, or wherever it is. So you could also access it from there, right? So this is basically how the reconstructed ECU table is going to look like. So I said you'll have to convert it into a human readable format. Even after you convert it into a human readable format, there's going to be so much of data that you'll have to basically start correlating. So there is something called as an alpha N here. There is something called as a cruise lockout. So what do all these table mean? What does the variables mean? How do they correlate with each other? So take for example ignition. So there is something called as an ignition map selector, ignition dwell, ignition advance, and ignition offset. So why do you need so much of tables for this? And how do you make changes? So this is basically what we call as control strategies, and this is basically what you need to understand. And I also said, if you remember, you get hexadecimal values. Hexadecimal will have to be converted into human readable format. So this is how the hexadecimal ECU tables will look like. It will be a complete, I wouldn't say junk, but when you look at it, it is junk values. It's not junk, but when you look at it, it looks like that. It doesn't, of course, make any sense to me. It looks like it's all meaningless numbers. So these numbers, I'll have to convert it into this kind of a table. So this is basically something the software does. I'll have to pay someone. I'll have to do it myself. There's a lot of ways. It's a pretty complicated process, but yes, this is possible. You can do it, and hexadecimals will be kind of like given to you in this format. Now once you get it in this format, it's kind of easy for you to go change, because standalone ECUs, again, this is how you would work. So you have nice tables, you have everything labeled out, the units, you can just go happily do it. But unfortunately, that is not how you will get it. You will get it in hexadecimals. With OEM ECUs, you'll have to spend some time and you'll have to convert it. We'll kind of like teach you how to convert it as well for a couple of this thing. But yes, we can kind of go forward with it. Now let's come back and let's revisit it, and let's kind of like try to re-understand what are the tools that you actually need to start doing your ECU tuning, right? So I'm just trying to bring it to a close, because like we need to have some time for answering the Q&As as well. But as you probably would have understood by now, I've kind of given you where to go, what books to read, where to search, what to search, which order to search, and that should kind of help you understand how to tune ECUs. But now again, let's revisit it. Let's try to understand what are the tools needed, right? So now earlier we stopped with the laptop to interface to ECU, but now we are going to add a couple of more things. So the first one is the tool to hack into the ECU. Obvious, you need something like that, and you need to have the knowledge to reverse engineer the hex file, or you need to pay someone to do it for you. And you also need to know what is the control strategy, because you have the tables. It doesn't really make any sense trying to make some changes in the tables directly. You need to understand what the tables mean, how to do it, right? And finally, you would need to have this is probably the most important thing. We are humans after all, and we do make a lot of errors. Like, we are prone to errors, at least when we are starting off. And you need to understand, most importantly, it is not sufficient to understand how to tune. It is more important for you to know what to do if something goes wrong. So you hack into an original ECU. Sorry. So you hack into an original ECU. What do you do if something goes wrong? What do you do, like, if the ECU is not working anymore? What do you do if your car is not starting? What do you do if your ECU is bricked? So that knowledge is more important as well, right? So this is basically the complete list of tools that you need. The resources, the knowledge you need to do it, I've already given it in the previous two slides. Now this is the tools that you would need to kind of get this thing done. So everything said and done, so now what is RainLab, and how do we, like, kind of help you with it? So what we do is, basically, because I've been doing it for the last 7 years. I'm not kidding. For the last 7 years, I've been teaching the same ECU tuning course, and I've been teaching every single day of my life. So basically, what we've been able to do is we've been able to convert this whole into a flow which is easy enough for you to understand. And most importantly, if you look at this, the point number 5, point number 3, which is a dyno facility. So if you want to learn how to tune an ECU, you cannot learn how to tune an ECU without having hands on, right? This is not something, it's like learning swimming in a classroom. How do you learn swimming in a classroom? So learning to tune ECUs online is something similar. So we wanted to kind of still be able to do it, which is why we have spent the last 3 years developing an application called as the Virtual Dyno. So the Virtual Dyno, of course, is free for you to use. You can head on to our website and search for the ECU Tuning Challenge or the Virtual Dyno, and you would be able to access our virtual dyno free of cost for 2 days. So what the virtual dyno does is, it gives you access to a ECU. It gives you access to a race prepared bike. It's the same as our Group C RC390, which is basically put up there. And you also have access to a dyno. So for 1 second, if you forget that this is a virtual system, okay, you forget that it's a virtual system, it is as real as anything can probably get. I would say as real as is probably 80% accurate as the real system. So you can imagine that you're sitting inside an air conditioned room, and you're just having access to a ECU bike and a dyno, which is probably at a remote location. So that's kind of the behavior what you would get with our virtual dyno. And this is basically what we use to teach you how to basically start tuning ECUs. And of course, once you have learned the basics, we go into the more complicated things, which is diesel theory. So petrol engine control, diesel engine control, there's a lot of difference there. Standalone ECUs, OEM ECUs, there is going to be some difference with that. And we don't stop with that. We also go teach you what exactly are performance modes, because people want to know, how do you build an exhaust system? How do you build an intake manifold? Or what is a turbocharger? How do you fix a turbocharger on a car? So these are basically questions which we have for people who want to do this performance modification as a business, basically. So for those people, we kind of have support on those things as well. And of course, this does not make sense during COVID times, but usual cases, what we do is, you guys, once you have done with your course, you're free to come down to our garage at Chennai, and you can have hands-on as well. So of course, with COVID and all those things, it is not possible to get a hands-on, but the offer still stands. You can do your course now. You can probably come back to us at any point of time later, and you could basically do the the hands-on as well. Now, before we move on, another small poll for you guys. So, did you actually understand how the whole process works? Was it effective enough? Did I manage to convey the essential information in the very short time that we had, just for me to understand if that was sufficient? So, if you did understand, then it would be really great. I would be very happy for that. And now the final thing is, of course, for those of you who do who did probably like mention that they were interested in doing this more as a a career or something like that. So for those of you guys, if you're interested in joining one of our courses, then this is basically what we need to do. So I've again posted another poll just for us to understand if you guys are interested in taking up a course. So of course, the webinar has got nothing to do with the course. If you are interested, please do say yes. I would ask our team to get back in touch with you. If you're not, then you could obviously say no, and no hard feelings. But even if you do say no, if you still want to get back to us and you want to understand more about ECU tuning, you are free to kind of get in touch with us. You can kind of reach me out at my email address, or you can WhatsApp me, or you could also visit our website, and any questions, anything that you have, we could possibly do it over there. Right. So now, guys, please do answer the last poll. So just for us to understand if you guys are interested in probably joining the ECU tuning course. Right. In the meanwhile, what I'll do is let me go and start answering the questions. Okay. So let me start from the first. I'll project the questions. I'll ask the questions, and I'll just read out the questions and I'll start answering it. So the first question from Ranjot Singh, I think I've got your name right. So, can we learn how to tune the car ourselves? How risky it is? I would say it is easy to learn. You can learn. That's what the whole webinar was about. I think this was before the webinar you had posted this. Easy to learn. How risky it is? It is risky if you don't understand what you're doing. In our course, we take extreme precautions to teach you what not to do. Right. So if you ask me, like at Trainlab, can we like teach you everything there is to learn about tuning an ECU? No, we can't. But we can definitely teach you how not to tune an ECU. So basically, that is something we try to concentrate on. So basically, we try to take the risk out of it. Even if you do some mistakes or something, if you've been part of our tuning courses or something, then you do have the support from our side to kind of help you mitigate it. Alvin Christo, is the engine sputtering at low speed caused by mistuned ECU? Yes, ECU can be one of the reasons. There can be other reasons as well. It can be a mechanical issue. It can be a blocked fuel injector. It can be your fuel pump not getting enough power. There can be a lot of options. There can be a lot of reasons. But yes, ECU tuning. Again, if this is a standalone ECU, then yes. But if it's an OEM vehicle, if it's a stock ECU, then the sputtering is basically not caused by a mistuned ECU. It's probably caused by some other problems. Do you need a dyno every time for tuning? I would say every time you start off tuning, if it is an unknown vehicle, you need a dyno. But once you have tuned it on the dyno, see, what we do is we tune the vehicle on the dyno, we take it to the racetrack, and before every race, before every session, we do retune it. But all those times, we don't need a dyno. So you get the baseline. Once you get the baseline, you don't need the dyno post that. You just need it one time. Want to learn the basics of ECU tuning and career opportunities? Bevan, I hope I've been able to answer your questions. If I have not been able to, you can always email me, or you can WhatsApp me. You have my contact details over there. Sandeep, Lionel. Can we join BITS Pilani after getting a diploma on automotive engineering? Lionel, I think you do have the WILP program. So depending on where you're currently working, you can join automotive engineering if your organization is supporting it. Otherwise, you will not be able to join on campus. You would have to probably write your qualification exams, which is a real. It's going to be really tough, right? It's not easy to get into it. We have very high expectations of the students at BITS Pilani. So. WILP, yes, but not otherwise. Sandeep Joseph, I would like to know the capability and limitation of stock ECUs and the flexibility and advantages of using standalones. In what scenarios a stock ECU would be sufficient, and when we go for standalone ECUs? Okay, let me put it this way, Sandeep. If you are just looking at incremental gains over the stock, whatever performance is there, you would go with the stock ECU. So it's basically like you just want to run it on the streets. You want to have just a small power bump and things like that. Stock ECUs can handle it. Certain cars like the Volkswagen platforms, even if you do upgrade the turbos, the ECUs can handle it. You don't have to go for a standalone. But for any of the other market cars, like maybe a Japanese car or something, you take a Toyota Corolla, you want to turbocharge it. The stock ECU will not know how to control a turbocharged engine, so you would have to go for a standalone ECU at that particular point of time. What are some sources to learn ECU tuning at home by ourselves? I would say get on to YouTube, get on to a lot of forums. There's a lot of ECU tuning forums, so do go there and spend some time there. It would kind of help you as well. I mean, of course, apart from RainLab, so those are the options which you have for learning. In motorcycle, which is the best tool to know air fuel mixture? Varun Naidu, there is just one tool to learn, I mean, to know what the air fuel mixture is. That is a wideband oxygen sensor. You will have to get a wideband O2 sensor. Nothing other than that would help. Do you need to be an engineering background? Nope. You don't have to. You don't need any kind of an education. You just need to have really good interest in learning. You need to know how to probably ride a car or a bike, right? At least some driving skills, and that's all you need. You don't need anything else to learn ECU tuning. um, I think the next question is from Magesh. Can you explain about Virtual Dyno? I hope I've already told you that. So Virtual Dyno is an application which we have built. It simulates a bike on a dyno. So without having a bike, without having an ECU, without having a dyno, through a web page, you would be able to learn how to tune it. So that is what the Virtual Dyno is. So it's available on our website. You can go to rainlab.com, go to the Virtual Tuning Challenge, and you can access it for 2 days free of cost. Raj, if you could just post the Virtual Tuning Challenge link onto the chat box or something, I think it would be good for the people to understand that. Deepak, I'm looking to understand the basics of ECU tuning, CAN communication, working on a connected cars. Deepak, this is going to go much more than ECU tuning, but I'm extremely interested in working on something on these lines. Deepak, if you're listening, you have my phone number there. Please do drop me a message on WhatsApp or drop me an email. I would be extremely interested in discussing more about this, right? Please do drop me a message. Shelby Abraham, flashing an ECU, running a piggyback ECU for a drag race Ninja 300. See, flashing an ECU, you cannot make changes on the fly. So once you flash it, it remains there. But running a piggyback, you can probably, like on the track, you can make some changes. So it's a personal choice between the two of it. Basically speaking, I would because a Ninja 300 ECU can be flashed, I would say run a flash, because ECU tuning, the piggybacks you get in India, they are not as capable as maybe like a full-fledged thing. So between a piggyback and flashing an ECU, if the ECU flash is possible, run an ECU flash. That should be sufficient for you. Or if you're very serious about your drag race, run a piggyback. Also know how to tune the piggyback, so then it can be better than the flash. Is ECU tuning only for motorsport cars and bikes? Nope. It's basically people do remaps for street driven cars as well. So it is possible for all the cars. Vivek, why diesel engines cannot be tuned? Diesel engines can be tuned. They cannot be tuned with a standalone ECU. So the reason why you cannot use a standalone ECU to tune diesel cars is because the injectors, they run at something like about 120 or 150 volts. So it would not be possible for standalone ECUs to work at those voltage levels. So which is basically why we don't tune diesel engines using a standalone ECU. So there are standalone ECUs available, but we don't usually use it. Diesel engines, we usually run with stock ECUs, we remap them, right? So that's the distinction there. Without the dyno, which is the tool in motorcycle where we can read the performance numbers like Draghi in a car? Varun, you can use any GPS, right? You can use, there are a lot of tools available for your mobile phones even. You can use one of that should basically work. Any GPS should work. Draghi is the GPS device basically, right? How does a multi-mode remap works? Do you custom provide in for a car? Multi-mode remap is basically something where you switch between two different map addresses by using a small hardware crack in it. So this has been developed by Wolfmoto. No one else has options for it. So basically, Wolf Moto is what is working on it. But personally speaking, I would say it is more of a marketing gimmick, basically, because with an OEM ECU, your entire power torque calibration is controlled by your how much of throttle you are giving. So personally speaking, unless you are going with a very hugely different power levels, a multimode remap will not basically do too much of a difference. Yes, we can provide multimode remaps for certain cars. We can do that. Difference between ECU and TCU: ECU is the engine control unit, TCU is the transmission control unit, which basically controls your DSG gearboxes. So mostly the DSG and the ZF gearboxes, they have a transmission control unit, so they control the shifting and those phenomena. Why do we go for diesel engines with a turbo? In case you want to map, cause you cannot. What do we do for a diesel engine? Okay, sorry, Abhishek Shivakumar, you go for a remap, right? You go for a remap, and the remap is the best possible option for you, the cheapest possible option for you when you want to go for a diesel turbo remap. Ram Prasad, standalone ECUs cannot be plugged into LoRa. No, the reason why standalone ECUs, the normal standalone ECUs cannot be used for a LoRa is because they don't support direct injection. So direct injection needs a lot more of complicated control strategies, and I personally don't trust a regular standalone ECU to do that, unless of course you're running something from Motec or something like that, which is capable of doing it. Say the Vento. The Vento race cars, which basically run in the national racing championships, they run a Motec ECU, so they can run a standalone for it. But that ECU is going to cost you about 3.5 4 lakh rupees, which basically doesn't make any sense for us now. It is easier for us to basically do a remap on the LoRa, since it's possible. The reason is because you don't have comprehensive control strategies to control a direct injection petrol. That's what I meant by that. Do I get any type of internship certificate? Yes, Praveen, you can talk to Raj regarding this. What is remapping? Remapping is basically making changes in the stock issue. I hope I had covered that. Powertronic is a standalone ECU. Nope, Powertronic is a piggyback. Are They are 901s, and now I think now it is the M 401 or something. So those are the standalones. The Powertronics are piggybacks, basically. Career opportunities, Hakash have covered that. Can we get tuned data and copy to ECM, since not every workshop owner can afford dynamometer? Yes, Karan, you can do it. That is kind of how we do remaps. So there is one tuner who puts the car on the dyno. They get it tuned, and every time you have a car to remap, they can send you files. You can put it on the ECM, so that will work as well. In fact, that's how it works. Nobi John, it's very common to see maps turned stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 infinity. How effective if every car comes from the factory comes out differently? See, what stage 1, stage 2 basically means is that we need to have some standards to basically offer you more power, and we also need to kind of price our maps at different price levels. So now, say like we have a Skoda Octavia VRS, the 2-liter turbo, and say we can give you 120 bhp gains, and we need to price it at 60,000 rupees. But someone comes and says, I need something for 30,000. What can I have? So what we do is we reduce the power from that, and we give it to you for 30,000. So if you really look into it, the kind of effort that goes into it, everything remains the same. But basically, to try to offer it at different price levels, we kind of like put it at different stages. So don't go too much by that. Don't look too much into it. Stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, it's a marketing gimmick. It's also to add some more things. So I can, when you come to me, I can tell you, see, if you want to go for a stage 2, you can only do it if you go for an exhaust under filter. So then I add another 50 60,000 rupees to your bills. So it's marketing gimmick. Don't go too much into it. You still want to discuss, do feel free to WhatsApp me. Are these maps comparable to the one done on the dyno or the streets dedicatedly? See, this is a very tough question to ask. Some people do claim that since they have completely developed everything on the dyno, they have put in so much of an effort, and our maps are better. So what I would tell you is this. For a second, okay, I mean, I've been in the field for too long, so this is just my personal suggestion to you. For a second, forget what the map is doing or who's given the map and things like that. Flash the map on the car, take it onto the roads, drive it, right? If you like it, just go with it. If you don't like it, don't go for it. And of course, if you do have a data logger, data log, make sure you don't have any knock counts and things like that. Of course, those are precautions you would do, but I would say don't put too much of importance into whether this is developed on the dyno, developed on the streets. End of the day, you will have to be happy. It doesn't matter how much horsepower, how much torque it produces. Whether you do a quarter mile in 13 seconds or 20 seconds doesn't really matter. What matters is if you enjoy driving, right? So don't put too much of an effort into it. Manas Kera, I'm an SAE member. We want good performance for that. We will miss you. We have taken Dynamo, or is it good, or if we have to take Dynamo test at the center? Manas, can you please WhatsApp me, please? WhatsApp or email me, or you can get in touch with Raj as well. We'll discuss this. It's going to take me some longer time to kind of discuss this for you, right? So please do get in touch with me privately. I'll try to help you out with this. Okay. Next question, Omkar, could you please repeat the name of softwares for ECU? WinOLS, SwiftTech, and Alien Tech also has something. Tuner Studio, Tuner Pro, something like that. Yeah, I forgot the name of it. So WinOLS is what we use. So you could use that. Is that ECUs are using in electric cars? Yes, electric cars also have ECUs. We don't call them ECUs in electric cars. We call them VCU, Vehicle Control Unit, or MCU, Motor Control Unit. So yes, you do have ECUs on that as well. How will a universal standalone like AEM EMS4 know which sensor or actuator is connected to which pin number on the ECU? So you cannot connect any sensor to any pin. A standalone ECU, they would mention which pin has to be connected to this particular ECU. You get a wiring loom. So the wiring loom will say, okay, this goes into the map sensor 5 volt. This goes into map sensor ground. This goes into map sensor signal. That's how it works. You don't map it yourselves. Some ECUs will allow you to do it. I think the Adaptronic, there is one particular model which will allow you to flexibly map pins, but 99% of all the standalone ECUs, they will configure which pin goes where, and you will have to stick to it. What is engine knocking? Engine knocking is basically detonation or pre-combustion. It happens in both petrol and diesel. More information, refer to John Haywood, Internal Combustion Engines by John Haywood. That would kind of help you out with it. Showroom service centers are using same hacking method? Nope, Dinesh. Like showrooms, they have authorized tools which will allow them to get into the ECUs and make changes if needed. They don't have to use hacking methodology. Hacking is only with the aftermarkets, right? Career opportunities, Arvind, I think I've covered that. Difference between piggyback and remapping. Piggyback is basically an ECU which sits on top of your existing ECU, right? And whatever signals come from your stock ECU, it makes some changes to it. Remapping is you get into the stock ECU and make the changes yourself. What are the softwares used to tune a standalone ECU? For every particular standalone ECU, they have their own software. So if you're using Haltech, go to Haltech's website, they'll have a software for it. Ashwin, is remapping affect the car in any way? No, if it is done safely, it doesn't affect anything. Long-term reliability, everything remains within limits, provided it is done safely. And anyone who knows how to tune a car will do it safely, right? So in short, no problem with it. Sabrinathan, some tuning tools, softwares. WinOLS is what I use for hacking, OEM ECUs, so you could check that out. TCU Shyam, okay, it is not something which I can explain simply. It is quite a big thing. TCU basically controls when your transmission has to shift into what gear, what RPM it has to shift at, what kind of a clamping force it has to apply. So there's quite a lot of things. It's a pretty complicated process. Would probably take me a longer time. I would not be able to do it at this point. Maybe do get in touch with me. We'll see if we can organize a session on this later on. A basic dyno facility, if you build it yourself, you can build it for 5 lakhs, Sanit. You purchase it, it's going to cost you 20 lakhs plus. Standalone and piggyback, I think I've explained it. In remap, what parameters we change? We do fuel quantity, we do ignition, we do boost, we do quite a lot of things. We do pedal maps, we do there's quite a lot of things which happens. It's not just one or two parameters we change. There's at least some 20-30 different maps which would need to be changed. IC engine internal components, when I go to higher stage tuning, yes, you would have to. Basically, if you're turbocharging a naturally aspirated engine, you would have to do. But if it's a turbocharged engine already and you are staying within limits, you wouldn't have to do anything like that. In 3 months, how you can teach all about tuning and remaps? We don't need 3 months. We need just about 20 to 36 hours to teach. We've been doing it for the last 6 years now, and it is possible. I wouldn't say I've already mentioned it. I wouldn't say I can teach you every single thing which is possible to teach about tuning and remaps. We can teach you the fundamentals so you can start doing tuning and remaps yourself. And most importantly, we will be able to teach you what is wrong, or rather what you should not be doing. So that part of it we can definitely teach in 20-30 days. Remap affect durability? Nope, not if you do it within limits. Do two-wheeler ECU also as complicated? Yes, Dharnesh, unfortunately it is, because you do have, it's not okay as complicated as diesels, but it is complicated. It is not something which is very simple. It is a little complicated. How do you learn ECU training? Slide. Ananya, okay. Let me just go back. I mean, I don't know, how do you learn? There are quite a lot of things, right? So I think this is available for you. If you don't have it, don't worry, we will send the recording to you also. You will have the recording, so you could basically pause it and look at it at any point of a time. How will dyno control in virtual mode? You can go to our website, Veerakumar. It is over there. It's free for 2 days. You can register and you can see how it works, basically, right? Do you have car model? No, not as of now, because we only use it for teaching fundamentals. We don't have the car model. But between a two-wheeler and a four-wheeler, there is no much difference as far as the ECU goes. In fact, the ECU doesn't really understand, a standalone ECU doesn't understand if it is controlling a four-wheeler or a two-wheeler. It is all the same. The course fee for the RainLab course, Binoy, please get in touch with Raj. He would be able to help you out with it. Shelby, I think I've answered it already. If you know how to tune a piggyback ECU, go with the piggyback. If you don't know how to tune ECUs, go with the flash. A piggyback is basically an ECU which sits along with your stock ECU and controls it. It doesn't completely replace your stock ECU. It sits along with your stock ECU. Are you? Yes, you would be able to join. There is no educational requirement. How long is the course? Is it online? Yes, it is online. The course, the pro course, is 3 months long. You will take 1 month to complete the learning modules, and another 2 months is for you to practice and get back to us in case you have any doubts. Is it certified? Yes, it is a STEP certified. You can you will get a STEM certified. You will get a STEM accredited certificate from our side. Why can't we tune old cars OEM ECU? Harshil, there is nothing which says you cannot tune. You can tune quite a lot of old cars. It is just that at those point of a time, those ECUs didn't have much on it, right? So if you're looking at the old Honda City VTEX or something, they were tuning it by putting an extra chip on it. So it was actually a tedious process. You'll have to go with something like Ostrich or Modes or something. So it is easier for us to basically go with the standalone in that case. That's it. In case we screw up, can you back up the ECU and restore it? Yes, of course you can. You can definitely do it. That is how you do it. It is one of the best practices. That is how you would be doing it. To what level a standalone ECU tuned? Depends on how you built the vehicle. So I don't really understand what your question is, but you can tune it to whichever levels you want it to. All about basic ECU tuning, remap fundamentals in softwares. Yes, Sabarinathan, we do teach this. How much can we earn if I start an ECU tuning business? Abhishek, that depends on how you do it. Basically, your contacts, how you basically build your business. I would be extremely wrong if I say the figures which we make or the turnovers which we make. It varies. It depends on your business capabilities, right? I would be, it would be wrong for me to give you a number. So I don't know how else to handle this, but it would be wrong for me to give you a number. But you can say, if you have really good business skills, if you have really good contacts, then you can make really good money. If you don't have contacts, then ECU tuning, someone has to trust you and come there. So basically, you would not make any money if you don't have contacts. Any job oriented courses, Akshay, yes, you can get in touch with us once the thing is over. I'll ask Raj to get in touch with you on this. There are some job oriented courses as well. Response time, which is faster, does ECU? I think, I mean, the response time remains the same. The OEM issue works at a much more higher speed because it has to do quite a lot of other things, like maybe controlling your CAN bus networks, controlling your ABS, quite a lot of other things as well. So OEMs work at much higher speeds. There are multiple ECU cores as well, but in terms of response time, they all happen at the same time. It doesn't basically affect any kind of a performance or anything like that. But OEM ECUs work at much higher speeds. Can two-step possible on OEM ECU? Two-step, I think you're talking about rev limiters. Certain cars, yes, it is possible. I'm a rider. I want to tune my motorcycle. It's after, so I want to walk in. Yes, please, Pranesh. You could get in touch with Raj anytime. Other than Inca, any other software for calibrating OEM ECU? See, Inca is one of the things. You have Vector, Canepe. Apart from it, I think OEMs also have their own tools as well. It's just that since Bosch kind of like has got a lot of you know, I mean, it's largely used. You have ETAS, which is Bosch's own company, which is one of the primary things. But you have tools from Vector as well. So Vector Canepe is something which can be used for calibrating OEM ECUs. Basically, anything which is compatible. I mean, any CAN compatible software, it can probably be used. There are some aftermarket ECUs which can be tuned with the software as well, and those are softwares which are developed by those people. I think you can check for Rabbit ECU. So Rabbit ECU is something which basically follows the same protocols. Stage tuning, I've answered that already. Where does a piggyback ECU stand in the tuning scene? Not much these days, because these days the stock ECUs are basically stock ECUs are basically like they're smart enough to kind of understand something is going wrong. So piggybacks cannot offer much kind of a support these days. Automotive diploma can get you into engineering college. Yes, I think you can with an automotive diploma. What tool would you recommend? I would say if you're starting off, I would say go with CMD or auto tuner. Makes much more sense. Again, depends on what cars you're tuning. If you're tuning a lot of the older cars, I would say go with KTAG and KISS. If you're tuning the newer vehicles, then CMD and auto tuner would be better. How to start your own business? Probably get in touch with Raj. No simple answer to it. It is possible, but it's going to be a long drawn discussion, so we cannot unfortunately discuss here. But yes, I can help you out with that. How does the rider's requirement affect ECUs? Depending on what kind of a throttle position is being given, that basically goes as input into the ECU. So based on that, you decide how much torque output to give, and things like that. So it's basically torque-based mapping. So the rider's requirements are everything. So if you have full throttle, then it means you need more torque. If you're at quarter throttle, it means you need less torque. So you build up from there. You have a garage. Yes, we have a garage. You can come and you can check it, but nope, we don't offer live training because it's extremely time consuming for us, right? So we don't offer live training, but you can have live hands-on. Our garage is in Chennai. You can come for live hands-on after you do the online training. How much power Rainlab battery mapping on OEM is 1.2 Swift petrol? I think usually, I mean, I think you're talking about the K12, right? K12 I think is about 10 or 12 bhp. I'm not sure off the top of my head. Earlier 1.3 Swifts, the G13BB used to be a lot more was possible, but with the K12s, I think it's around 10 or 12 bhp, not more than that. And of course, if it's for a street application, it really doesn't make sense. It makes drivability a lot more better, but outright horsepower, no. And Abhinash, on the same lines, this is something which I would like to tell to everyone. Uh, Tuning is not about achieving higher horsepower figures. So I can achieve the same horsepower and torque, but the drivability can be a lot more different. So it is called as area under the curve. So that's what basically defines drivability. So drivability, peak horsepower and torque, there's a lot of difference. So peak horsepower on the 1.2 K12s, I don't think there is too much achievable, 10 bhp at the max. But drivability, yes, we can do a lot of difference in terms of drivability. Flashing an ECU, nope, it is the same level of difficulty. Nothing is more easier or less easier. Okay, Tata Nano, it doesn't have it. Okay, I mean, it basically, like, what it does is, in two-cylinder engines, you could also, like, figure out which is the TDC, or rather, which is the actual cam TDC, by using your map sensor as well. So there are multiple ways in which it can do it. The control strategies would help it understand which cylinder is going into the TDC first, as in the compression stroke TDC. It will be able to do it based on that. Dieseltronic managed to have a standalone tune for diesel cars. Dieseltronic is not a standalone issue. It's again, it's a tuning box. It just alters the signals to the injectors or the rail pressure sensors. It is not a standalone ECU. Chip tuning trainings, that is basically what we call as remaps. So yes, we do provide the fundamentals. We do provide that training. Shamjit, I would ask Raj to get in touch with you. If you had answered you are interested in the course, then I would have Raj get back to you, and I'll help him do that. Okay, standalone and piggyback. So standalone is, you remove the stock ECU from the car, you put your own ECU to control. That is standalone. Piggyback is, you leave the stock ECU to control ABS, airbags, and things, and your standalone ECU only controls fuel and spark. So then it is supposed to be operating in piggyback mode. So piggyback is, your standalone ECU sits on top of stock ECU. That is what we call as a piggyback mode. Hope it's clear enough. Open source website where we can download raw data and change the hex to codes and maps. Vivek, you could try out WinOLS. I think they provide some sample files as well. WinOLS, WINOLS, you could check it out for more information. Offline course for ECU tunings. So Gerald, no, we cannot offer ECU tuning offline because of the amount of time we need to spend on it. So what we can do is offer it online. You can learn it online, and you can come to our garage offline for 3-4 days, basically brush up the basics and get some hands-on. So that's kind of what we do. It is not possible for us to offer offline because it's not scalable for us. If you are remapping, yes, it will affect your checksum. It will end up locking your ECU if you don't use the proper tools. So after you have finished writing your files, you'll have to run a checksum algorithm, and then you'll have to write it onto the ECU. If you don't do it, it will lock the ECU. If I have a data of KX250F, can that be copied into another ECM? Depends on how you got the KX250F, and if the software and hardware version on both the ECUs are same, then yes, we can do it. What is the engineering compromise on extracting more power from a factory tune? Right. Okay. So the very simple answer is that when you're doing a tune at the OEMs, your first priority is emissions compliance. So for emissions compliance, you end up, kind of like cutting down on power, or rather, when you start tuning for emissions compliance, you lose power. So what you lose is the emissions compliance. So emissions compliance, as stipulated by RI in the drive cycles, that is basically what you would lose when you go for a remap. In terms of life, I would say, like, see, there is something called as a factor of safety, and there is something called as a baseline tune. So for example, the 2-liter TDIs from Volkswagen Group, their baseline tune is 190 bhp, but they are detuned to 110 bhp in the Loras. So when we take it back to 190 bhp, are we losing life there? I would say nope. We are just taking it back to the baseline. But then why did Skoda give it at 110 bhp, whereas Audi gives it at 190 bhp? Basically, differentiation between brands, making you pay extra for some higher features or something like that, right? So that's basically what the compromise is going to be on. How to data log properly, Sajan, it would depend on what car you're talking about. So most of the cars, you could use a scan tool. They have some basic data logs. If you want to do more in-depth data logs, then you would probably have to, maybe use something like dedicated data loggers, or your own sensors, or something like that. Different types of ECUs, Neelram. I think you go through the lecture. You should have sufficient information about it. Nope, Venkatesh, no, nothing like that. It's just that OEM engineers have different set of goals to achieve. So in OEMs, we need to concentrate on emissions first, NVH next, reliability, and then finally whatever you're left with, that is your power and torque. Whereas when you come into aftermarket, you don't worry about emissions or NVH. A tuned car is supposed to be loud. A tuned car is not supposed to meet emission norms. Theoretically, a tuned car is supposed to run on racetrack, so emission norms don't apply. So just basically having different set of constraints. OEMs, they have a lot more of constraints. Aftermarket, not as much, right? So that's the difference. It's not a question about being smart or not. It's just a question about what the priorities are. Will the OEM ECU start showing fault codes after remap? It will not show a fault code if you do it properly. Improperly done, it would definitely show. Can I tune an RX 100? Yes, why not? How do you tune it? Carburetors and other things. A question, I mean, it's a discussion for another time, but yes, you can tune it. Rishikesh, legal problems if you perform any changes to ECU. See, in the US, there is something which allows people to mod their own cars. It's there in the US. It's legal for you to mod it, but you can modify it as long as it is passing all the emission requirements. But in India, the law is very unclear about it, right? But technically speaking, if you were to put it in a legal terms, you're only making changes to a piece of equipment which you own. You're paid for the car, you're paid for the ECU. You can do whatever it is that you want. It is not strictly illegal, right? So I would say in that terms it is not illegal. But if you're driving this modified car on the roads, then maybe that could be illegal. So it's always a discussion on those lines. Probably you would have to take it up with different set of people as well. Raj will get in touch with you with fees. With software for motorbikes mapping, standalones, you have standalones. Easy, I mean, if you want to go for remaps, then we know LS would be the software. Which would be more powerful, 300cc parallel or a single cylinder? An engineering question. I would say a parallel twin, basically because it will have a shorter stroke. A shorter stroke means it can rev to higher RPMs, means it can produce more power. Single cylinder long stroke, you would not be able to produce much power, though the torque would be different. Case of Ninja 300 versus KTM RC or 390 or something, then obviously the Ninjas would produce much more power. Carburetor calibration, not specifically, but the same principles you can apply to that as well. What happens to efficiency after a tune? Depends on how you tune. Most of the remaps, we see an increase in efficiency. If you're doing standalones, if you are going for outright horsepower, efficiency will drop. You don't get a free lunch, like someone was saying. You put more fuel to make more power, you will lose efficiency. Yes, Gerald Peter, like this happens with it. Yes, the remaps, we have a module on that. We will teach you how to make exhaust. Can you install an ECU in a vehicle that doesn't have it and then tune it to boost performance? Manas, yes. Simple answer is yes. We would be able to tune it. We would be able to do that. Right. So that brings us to the end of the questions. And if there's anything else, you could always basically get back to us on WhatsApp. You have my number here. You have my email address. You can also get onto our website and probably drop us a message there. And before you guys leave, just a small suggestion for us. How do you rate our session? Did you like our session? If you did, or if you didn't, then maybe you could just drop your suggestions over here, right? So thanks a lot for joining in, guys. And the recording for the session would probably be emailed to you once it is available. So once again, thanks for taking time and spending your Saturday with us. Thank you so much. And for those of you who have supported us, thanks a lot. We will get back to you with more details. Right? Thank you. Thank you, one and all.